Hello and welcome to the Living by Numbers podcast. My name is Kirsten Foss, and I'm really glad that you're here for March's energetic forecast, March 2026. And I would say that as a four energy month in a one energy year, we're going to call this sovereignty under construction. So let's get into what I mean by sovereignty under construction. What I see, what I'm feeling myself, what I'm hearing from friends, from colleagues, from participants in some of the events I've been at and doing is that there's a lot of like, I'm so freaking done. And they're almost ready to like light a match and toss it behind them and walk away. And yet, I get it because the one energy wants independence. The nervous system is tired. Our hearts have been over functioning, over giving. The emotional infrastructure is is breaking down for us. And it's because we've been the emotional infrastructure for everybody else. So that has been a really big theme for the past, few years, especially last year. Last year was nine energy. Lots of us felt a lot of completion, things wrapping up that we didn't think was going to wrap up. So and it was because it was all pushing us into this new energy of 2026, where it wants independence, not dependence. So in February, we were in a three energy month, and that three energy is about creativity, and emotional expression. So my big message from last year was especially since last year, you've been wanting to say a thing and you've been wanting to create a new thing. And last month was the month to do that. It was a month ripe for creativity, a month ripe for emotional expression. It doesn't mean it was going to be easy. In fact, I bet you there was some really tough conversations that might have had to happen. There might have been some tough decisions that might have had to happen. As part of this, I need to create the thing, I need to speak the thing. And so the reason why I like to talk about last month is because A, it helps us to make sense of what we thought might happen. It helps us make sense of what ended up happening, and so that we can embody it and not just float around like an apple in the water and feeling buffeted all the time. We'd like to feel a little bit more like we're co-creating rather than everything happens to us. So last month with that creativity, it showed us that, and my hope was to spark that creativity, give ourselves permission for creativity so that we just go ahead and do the thing, say the thing, make the thing. And it was actually like it was supposed to be done in a fun way, in a way that felt really good to ourselves, in a way that felt aligned, because we need to use that energy that we learned and experienced as far as creativity, and because it helped us to create strategy, life strategy. It's the same kind of tools that we're using for our creative brain, we're using for our strategic brain. So this month with a four energy, the four energy is about stability, about building structure, it's about building systems, it's to create sustainability for what we created. And so let's keep using our creative brains. And if you don't think you're a creative person, think of it as strategic because they're the same thing. It's problem solving brains. Creativity is a problem solving. Now, what we're going to do is we're going to use that creativity to build something a little more serious, because whatever we're building that independence wants, it needs to be sustainable. We can't build another house of cards. All right, let's get into the little more in detail about this four energy for March. What can we be expecting? Well, the tone, the high vibe for this four energy is I'm gonna explain it first, just kind of the general aspects that you can identify, and then I want to zhuzh it a little bit for you so that you know how to how you might be experiencing it so you can identify it a lot easier. So four energy is very grounded energy. It's structure, it's building foundations. It's a step-by-step process. So this means when you build something this month, that this isn't a like throw spaghetti at the wall, like, oh, I have this idea and I'm just gonna try it. And I am all for using life and as experimentation, but I feel like we are wanting to dial it in a little bit more, especially after last month's. That was the experiment month. That was the test it out kind of month. Now we want to take what we want to build and we want to build it right. So that means that we likely need to create systems and structure for ourselves that is step by step. It builds stability essentially when we do that. Four energy is really interesting. It's not necessarily like we see success right now at this stage of the manifestation cycle. The four energy is more about like the hardworking, create the structure, follow the step by step. So this is more like if you, read a self-help book or go to a counseling session and asking for some tangible action steps to practice on. Those are ways of taking an idea and applying a method to it, a methodology. Four energy is very hardworking. It's very loyal energy, and also honest, super honest. And so, if any of you are ruling number four and you figure out what your ruling number is or your life path number in numerology, we use those terms exchangeably. You add up the date of your birth date, and you like separate it all out. My birthday is June 22nd, 1971. And so it's 6 plus 2 plus 2 plus 1 plus 9 plus 7 plus 1. It comes to 28. And then we reduce the 2 and the 8 to get to a single digit. 2 plus 8 is 10. And we reduce that to 1 or a 10. So like if your life path number 10, we usually keep it at 10. But you could say your life path number 1. But however, if you do this little formula, which is actually not so little, it's a really big formula. It literally will give you your the theme of your life. If you've ever been wondering what you should be focusing on, working towards, what it's all about, your life path number will give you that overarching understanding. So for those of you that are ruling number fours, you will likely uh, be picking up what I'm putting down as far as the low vibration and high vibration. This will be a very personal month for you. It will be likely, might be a little bit more intense for you than it is for other people. Whenever we have repeating numbers in numerology, it intensifies things. Excuse me. What will this kind of look like for you? So the high vibration this month will look like radical self-responsibility, radical self-care. I've often used that term radical self-care with my past business clients. I've used it for myself. That's where it started when I was really needing a lot of support and realize like this, little have a self-care day isn't going to cut it. I needed radical self-care, like a daily, intensive daily self-care therapy. And it'll be different for everybody. But for myself, that it was a huge self-responsibility that I did. And I know how to take care of myself now. So radical self-responsibility is a high for energy vibe. Protecting your time like it's sacred. This is very difficult, especially for women. When if like if you're a mom, you've got a career, you have a partner, you've got aging parents. Like, did I miss anything? Heaven forbid if you want to get some gardening in and have some you time. This for energy month, high vibration says, girl, mark it in your calendar and protect that time for yourself as sacred. Building routines as part of nourishing your nervous system. It is part of that radical self-care, radical self-responsibility. It's also part of that protecting your time like it's absolutely sacred. Those things protect and soothe your nervous system. So we're creating a new system of living, of being, of embodying that supports a grounded, stable nervous system. We cannot create anything of purpose if we are feeling like a nervous wreck. It, it's just perpetuating the like hemorrhaging of energy from us when we do that. More high vibe of the four is building financial structures that create freedom. There's a lot of entrepreneurs, especially online entrepreneurs, that look like the epitome of success, but the business is literally costing them as much as to run it, and there's no money, there's no profit in it. So let's not do that. Like, let's get back to self, what feels best and aligned for us. And yes, we need money. Yes, we need good income to support ourselves, and also like good income to be able to do the things that we want to do. Like, I want to go on retreats. I want to go on vacation with my sister, just the two of us for, walk the Camino. Like, there's all sorts of really fun, cool things that I would like to do extra. And we need to be able to financially have that kind of freedom, but we're not going to have that if we don't create structure in our financial stability. So that again is going to look different for everybody. It could be it's just you don't pay attention to the money. It's time to pay attention to the money. Boundaries that are calm and not explosive. That's that groundedness, that four energy. That's that, quiet elder that is listening and yet says, no. And the last note I have here for the high vibe is devotion to your own stability. It's going to take, like, this is where March is not going to go quietly. If you don't value and if we're not devoted to our own stability, everybody's going to want a piece of us, and they don't mean to. It's just life, and so that devotion to self might be a really new concept to you. It's I've been in the spa industry my whole adult life, and devotion to self is kind of what that has been built on. And yet, I think most of the service providers in the spa industry would agree with me is that we have lacked a large amount of devotion to our own self because we've been so busy caring for others. And so, having just even being devoted to self might be a completely new concept. But I'd like you to test it out, try it out in your mind, and test out that idea of devotion to your own stability. There's a difference in the word devotion to your own stability versus like committed to your own stability. There's, it feels softer and it feels more aligned, and it just feels like I'm worth that. Feels like less pressure. So this four energy month isn't about grinding it out for anybody else's dream. It's about grinding it out for your new dream. And remember January, if you haven't listened to the podcast for January, we're 2026. It's a one energy year and it's a new agreement year. We closed out last year with a nine energy. It was completing some cycles. We get to create new cycles. We don't have to just kind of blindly keep following or falling into these old patterns that we don't like and don't work for us. And we've been wanting to change them for a while, anyways. All right. So, discipline, self-loyalty is the name of the game for this four energy month. Devotion to self, building something stable for self. Now, what is it going to look like for the low vibration for the four energy? So in general, foreign energy looks disorganized, unstable, no processes, lacking processes. So when I was a business coach for the spa industry for many years, that was my jam. I developed systems for spa owners, and a large part of them, especially when they had teams, They didn't have any team handbook. They didn't have an operations manual. They didn't have a spa manager manual. And so no wonder they felt like they were running around like a chicken with their head cut off because they were holding everything all up here. They had nothing documented. The team wasn't trained in these kind of repetitive policies and systems. Because when we create a system that is stable, it gives us a more stable result, which was what those spa owners were looking for. Well, we all want more stable results for our personal lives as well. So let's apply these, um, you know, kind of almost like business thinking in a way to our personal life, but it just has to do with I want repeatable outcomes. And I know that when I create systems in my business, it creates repeatable outcomes. I'm going to have some discipline in my personal life and do that as well. Uh, for low four energy, often because there's no processes, they repeat mistakes. Um, and I do find sometimes with the four ruling, somebody who has a ruling number four, life path four, is that they sometimes focus on the end result. And so they want to skip these steps because they're like, yeah, I'll get there. And what ends up happening inevitably is that there's a trip up, there's a fail somewhere, and they have to come back to that spot where they were and actually do it properly, do it again. So for energy is focusing on the process, not focusing on the end. Bossy and opinionated, work can be, and being a martyr about work and responsibility, kind of like, oh, woe is me. So let's see what those kind of can look like. In an emotional state, controlling everything you feel, controlling everything because you feel unsafe. That is definitely one of my low vibrations that I can very easily go into when I'm feeling unsafe or unsure. I get extra control. I don't like that about myself at all. In fact, I now know it's a flag for me. When I start feeling critical about somebody or something, that is my flag for like, what are you feeling? Like, turn it around. What are you feeling insecure about? What are you feeling unsafe about? And it's always something. It might show up as far as micromanaging relationships. It could be overworking to prove your independence, or like kind of that whole being productive to prove your worth. A low vibration of four in the emotional side sometimes comes off as like cutting people off emotionally, like impulsively. And this next last one I want to share is important, is that a big part of the low vibe of four is building something out of anger rather than clarity. So we're going to shake loose the resentment and the irritation and some of the rage because there's a lot of rage going on right now. The world if it looks like it is losing its ever-loving mind. And the misogyny, the sexism, the racism, like it is ragey, so ragey. And so that's where that like wanting to like light a match and throw it over your shoulder and like watch it burn and walk away comes in. But we want to use our rage more like a sacred rage. And that sacred rage is using anger to light a fire. That's very one energy. So this year, like expect it to be kind of ragey because it's meant to light a fire. It's meant to say, no, stop that, or yes, let's do this. It's meant to move things around, to activate things. So the difference between the high vibe and the low vibe before, the high vibe builds this feeling of sovereignty, of independence. The low vibe will build resentment. So let's decide what we want to build in terms of what's next for our lives. The other aspect with this one and the four, I just wanted to kind of tie in some bigger pieces for the one energy year and the four energy month, is that this month it is a time to decide, and these are really great journal prompts. These are questions we can ask ourselves. What are my non-negotiables? What does emotional nourishment actually look like for me? That's an interesting one. You might have to sit with that one for a little bit because you might not have been getting it at all. And you might not even be aware of what is missing. What systems would support that? So, if you're able to think through, like, what emotional nourishment, what does that look like for me? What kind of systems could support that? So, for example, um, let's just say quiet time. Say you just really need, you've got a busy life, a busy career, you got kids, and you really just need quiet. Time and space for quiet, for not doing anything, to just sit and to be and to receive. So, what could that look like? Maybe that looks like finding a local sound bath once a month to sign up for. Like, we don't have to make this like, you can make it a daily thing, and I hope you do, but just to get started, maybe it's one sound bath a month. Maybe it turns into something, it's just once a week for you. It's a sound bath for 1 week. Another week is maybe a breathwork session. Another week is maybe a yin yoga, super gentle. So now you've got like a weekly hour and a half of quiet you time that's systematized, that's in your calendar. You've talked to your partner if you have kids. This is important to me. They support your sacred time, hopefully. But that's what a system could look like. And the final question is, and this is an interesting one, where am I still waiting for someone else to step up? So are we waiting for our partner to tell us and give us permission that it's okay? Um, am I waiting until I find, until maybe my mother-in-law offers to take the kids or something? What am I waiting for? And to realize and recognize you can give yourself permission. In fact, you must give yourself permission. This was a hard one for me. And that is that no one is coming to be the architect of your life. This is up to you. And that is actually the gift. But, I mean, that could be a whole other conversation about this subconscious craziness of waiting for somebody to come save us. And in this particular month, with the four energy about building structure and stability, this is the month where we kind of go, ding, light bulb, like, oh, nobody else is going to be the architect of my life. In fact, nobody should be. They can weigh in, but I am the architect of my life. Now, what do I want to build from here? So let's talk about emotional power practices for March, because I always like to make sure that there are actionable things that we can do to feel like we are co-creating rather than just like life's happening to us. So I'm going to claim it. I want you to claim this as well for the month of March. And that, claiming the building of something structural. So let's talk about emotional stability. How many of us are, have had the habit of processing everything in real time with people who haven't earned access, helping people manage their life, you make it better, who haven't actually earned that reward. So this would look like, supporting yourself. That looks like a journaling practice. It looks like a therapist, time with your therapist. And maybe just even just like a weekly check-in with self. But creating some sort of emotional stability for yourself is critical because it's so easy, especially if you've been a caretaker and a caregiver in your career and your personal life. It's so easy to be everybody's emotional blanket, as it were. All right, let's talk about relationships. Instead of having a dramatic exit, maybe we create some new agreements around that. I like that. Maybe there's new agreements, like if you're having an argument with somebody, um, that this is not what I'm available for. This is what I'm available for. This is how I need to be communicated with. That might be disarming if your partner isn't, if you guys are used to being in a dynamic that kind of spins you up rather than creates stability and safety for communication. So create those new agreements with your relationships. You get to. Just because we have been doing it doesn't mean we need to keep doing it. So I keep reminding myself that if I'm in an argument, that it's about being calm. It's about staying calm. That, power doesn't scream. It just stands there and knows. Let's talk about career, whether you are employed or self-employed. Um, if you're done overgiving in your work, structure it. So if you have an employer, these are some little tactics that you might test out and try and see how it works. Stop saying yes immediately. Give yourself a little bit of time. That, it's sometimes it's almost like a knee-jerk reaction. Yeah, I can do that. So many of you are recovering people pleasers. I've been a people pleaser, but I also have this as a ruling number 10. I'm a visionary and I love new ideas and I love the independence of like trying something new. And so if somebody says to me, "Hey, can you do this?" My gut initial reaction is like, "Yeah, I can do it." And it's more of like a challenge, like, "Yeah, I can do it." Not, yeah, I've had time or yeah, I have capacity. So that has bitten me in the butt numerous times. And so I am very good at this aspect of like not necessarily giving an immediate answer, checking in with myself, but just like, yeah, I can do it. Like that has more to do about proving my worth. Clarify your job description. If you feel like you are overgiving with your time and your energy and that it's just like never enough, and you keep trying to communicate like this is a lot, it's too much, clarify your job description with your employer and notice what is outside of the scope that is actually part of your job description. That's really important. Um, Document your contributions, your weekly wins. That's to That's to make sure that invisible labor becomes visible. Clearing setter, having more clear work boundaries, more in terms of like work hour. Like so many of us love the work that we do that it's really easy to become workaholics, and that can affect life. Even to the point of where you're like, you don't want to be a workaholic anymore, and everybody else is just used to you being a workaholic. So there might be some reestablishing of some boundaries. And if you have not had a compensation review lately, hmm, this month might be the time to do that. So asking for compensation reviews based on data rather than emotion will be a way to kind of create some stability for yourself in asking for a promotion. Now, with entrepreneurs, this kind of energy is about raising your prices. Lots of you are, especially service providers, and many of you who are in the healing arts, your prices are so way too low. The other thing about prices is if you are already fully booked, then it is time to raise your rates a little bit. So you have a little bit of attrition, you have a little bit more time in your books. You can decide what you want to do with that time. But that is how, if you are fully overbooked, that's how you carve out some time for yourself, raise your rates, which then sometimes can the reduce your availability is another aspect of it. Um, and so maybe you just decide to go down 4 days a week if you've been working 5. Define your scope clearly. If you are a if you work by projects, I'm sure you already know this, is scope creep is a thing. So make sure that whatever project you are starting, if you've got a new job, that's where this job description aspect is super critical. That's part of your scope. This month could also be a month where you're meeting with your financial advisor or your accountant or your business coach to create a revenue floor that supports you. So if you're constantly like barely making ends meet in the business, it's time to create a different structure in your business. So that four energy loves a sustainable income. It does not like the hustle chaos at all. So be prepared for that kind of energy. Motherhood, caregiving roles, what can you expect? So if your identity has been wrapped up in caregiving, hello, my name is Kirsten Voss. I've been a spa service provider since my early 20s. I have three kids. I'm just a natural nurturer. I'm a Cancer. So this has been a huge Achilles heel for me. And then, having aging parents, parent had passed away, the kids moving out, we need new pillar. We need to build a new pillar. If you are in the throes of motherhood and just the crazy busyness of it all, or you are have shifted into a caretaking role of maybe aging parents, but this is really critical in terms of that structure for self, that self-care, that radicalized self-care. This is about dedicating time that is yours. And I know this might seem like almost impossible, but maybe with some creative strategic thinking, it can happen. But maybe every Tuesday from 6 to 8 is just your time. Maybe you can agree to that you go out Sunday mornings for solo coffee and you can journal, you can read a book, whatever you want. Maybe it is two gym sessions a week and they're literally booked like appointments, but dedicating time to yourself as a caregiver, as a mom. Maybe finding a project that nourishes you. Could be, could be craft, it could be art, it could be horseback riding, it could be volunteering, probably not volunteering because you're like crazy busy with your kids, but something like taking a certification that you've always wanted, um, some sort of creative practice, like if you like crocheting. um, but the volunteering part is possible, but only in a way if it nourishes you, not drains you, because that's the problem. We're trying to build something that doesn't drain you. And maybe there are some physical practices that ground you that you can commit to, whether it's strength training. I mean, there's so many videos on YouTube that are free to get started with, just moving our body. I'm super curious about like doing those like morning Tai Chi movements. I remember my grandma doing them a long time ago. Or maybe it's just walking daily, like a half-hour walk, yoga, meditation, dance. Especially if you have kids. I remember doing this with my youngest. This was when Lady Gaga was just coming on the scene, and I'd crank it up, and we would dance and dance and dance and dance and dance and dance and have so much fun. So it was fulfilling and it was something that we could do together. The important aspect here is that to see, we need to stop seeing ourselves as support staff to everybody else's becoming. This one energy year for you is about you becoming you. And this four energy month is going to demand that you create structure around it. Otherwise, the crazy just feels more crazy. That's what I mean by March isn't fooling around. It will tell you really loudly which structures are not working for you. Okay, what about grief and loss? Grief's been a really big one for me. Last year, my dad passed away. Um, and that burn it all down feeling is unprocessed grief, in all fairness. But how do we support our grief and loss healing? We schedule it. Again, counseling, therapy consistently, not sporadically. Joining a grief group. I've done that before in different times in my life. Um, especially because grief isolates you. You tend to just want to be alone in grief, and it's a self-fulfilling prophecy. And so going to a grief group can sometimes it's scary, but it can be really helpful. Having that one trusted person that you're honest with, setting aside that processing time. Again, it's that commitment to some sort of structure process. Maybe there's some need for ritualizing release. I've done this before. I've written a letter, all the things I wanted to say. I went down to the beach and I burned it. And I actually buried the what was left of it to really let it go. And it really, really did. It's part of that writing a letter, burning it, that's part of ceremony. Grief needs ceremony, that ritual to let it go. It's just the ceremony is really just marking a shift, like a shift in a role. That's why it's so important. Anchoring into your body. So have you noticed that out of all of these different situations, grief and loss, motherhood, caregiving roles, career, business, relationship, there's all like a mental and physical aspect to what we're doing. It's very tangible. So with grief and loss, anchoring your body, getting into learning those somatic exercises is fabulous. But any kind of exercise gets you into your body. I know a lot of people have said that grief and trauma, they ended up in the gym. It was a way for them to work that energy through the physicality. Cold plunging is another technique that people have used to anchor their bodies. Breath work and touch. So that's that massage or even the self-holding practices. That feels good. So the four isn't going to suppress the emotion, it just provides a safe container. So the crucial message, the core message for March is about building safety, building structure for safety, building structure and safety, building a container for it. The tangible container, the things that we do, the habits that we're making. Because if it's solid, it can expand. But if it's all just up on our head, it just wings around a lot faster as energy speeds up. The other reason why this month is so important to really get clear on what grounds you, what's going to be grounding and provide safety and structure for whatever you're building, whatever phase you're in. And you can be in a phase of, I don't know what I'm building. But you can be in a phase, I don't know what I'm building, but every little inch, I'm going to be intentional about it. That's good too. Because next month in April is a five energy month, and five energy is about change. It's an activating energy. It's another wake up energy. And the intention of it is to test how solid you made the four energy. It's just shaking it up a little to make sure you built it well, that you created it from architecture, not like a house of cards. The five will definitely, April will test things out. It doesn't mean that, whatever you built and are building for March was wrong. It's going to test it out. So I'm giving you this little peek forward because I want you to know why this month it's important to get serious about what kind of structure and stability you're creating. It's not about punishment, this is about refinement. If you've heard anything in this podcast, I really hope that you've heard that you don't need to burn it all down. You just need to reinforce it, okay? We need to reinforce it with boundaries, with critical thinking. We need to make sure our devotion is poured into it for our own nourishment because like I don't know about you, but I'm done with just getting by on things. I want to really flourish in who I really am and who I'm becoming. I don't know who that is quite yet. So in order for me to feel nourished, to flourish. Look at me, I'm a little poet. I've got to put roots down because the roots is what holds the growth of any living thing. The roots hold us when the storm is a blowing, and that's what we want. We want something super grounded, super strong, and structurally has loads of integrity around it. All right, that's it for the March 2026 forecast. If you have any questions, please feel free to email me or DM me on any of my socials. And if you want to go deeper to learn about your own energetic code, about what the strengths are, what your blind spots are, like how to really work your life, then you want to book a numerology blueprint with me. If you've already had a blueprint, then you can go ahead. If you're struggling with something, if you're at a crossroads with anything, then book a life call with me and we'll apply your numerology to what's going on and this like four energy universal, the one energy universal, but with all your own personal influences in your code. Will help you figure out what's going on, where you need to go, and how to do it. Thanks, everyone. We'll see you next month.